First Contact and Escalation. The year was 2157, and humanity had spread across 17 star systems. What began as tentative steps into the cosmos with the colonization of Mars had blossomed into a network of thriving settlements bound together by a loose confederation called the United Colonial Alliance. Earth remained the center of human government and culture, but the colonies had developed their own identities, economies, and in some cases, their own military forces. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of the UCA Pathfinder, watching as the blue-green jewel of Helios Prime grew larger in the viewscreen. The planet represented humanity's farthest reach into the galaxy, a pristine world with breathable atmosphere and abundant resources located in the Ta-CD system. Preliminary scans complete, Commander, Lieutenant Quan reported from his station. The anomalies are concentrated in the northern continent, approximately 200 kilometers from our main settlement. Reyes nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the planet below. 3 weeks ago, a geological survey team had discovered unusual formations buried deep within Helios Prime's crust. Initial analysis suggested they were not natural. They were artificial structures, millions of years old. "Any signs of the survey team?" she asked. "Negative, Commander. No response to communications since the initial discovery report." Reyes felt a familiar knot of tension in her stomach. 23 scientists and engineers had gone silent after discovering what could be the first evidence of non-human intelligence in the galaxy. The Pathfinder had been dispatched to investigate, but what had begun as an exciting scientific mission was rapidly transforming into something else entirely. "Prep the landing team," she ordered. "I want us on the ground in 1 hour." The descent to Helios Prime was uneventful, but what awaited them on the surface was beyond anything humanity had encountered before. The geological survey team's base camp was intact but abandoned, with no signs of struggle or evacuation. More unsettling were the massive excavation sites nearby, far larger than what the small team could have accomplished in 3 weeks with their equipment. "Sir, you need to see this," called Specialist Rivera, the team's xenorchaeologist. She stood at the edge of the largest excavation, her expression a mixture of awe and fear. Reyes approached cautiously, and what she saw made her breath catch in her throat. The hole in the ground revealed a vast complex of metallic structures, glowing with a faint blue luminescence, despite having been buried for what must have been millennia. "It's active," Rivera whispered. "Whatever this is, it's still functioning after all this time." Before Reyes could respond, a low hum filled the air, building in intensity until it vibrated through her bones. The ground beneath them shuddered, and sections of the ancient structure began to rise, breaking through the soil like the fins of some massive creature surfacing from the depths. "Fall back," Reyes shouted, but it was too late. A blinding light erupted from the center of the complex, shooting skyward in a column of energy that parted the clouds above. When their vision cleared, Reyes and her team found themselves surrounded by translucent, shimmering figures, humanoid in shape, but clearly not human, with elongated limbs and heads that tapered to points. The Arcturian collective had arrived, drawn by the activation of their ancient beacon. Humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization had begun. The following months were a blur of frantic diplomacy, cultural exchange, and mounting tension. The Arcturians, a federation of 7 sentient species united by their advanced understanding of quantum physics, had been monitoring this sector of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Their beacons, buried on countless worlds, served as both observation posts and territorial markers. To the Arcturians, humans were trespassers who had unwittingly violated their space. To humans, the claim that dozens of habitable worlds belonged to a civilization that had never occupied them seemed absurd. Ambassador Thomas Chen, dispatched from Earth to negotiate with the Arcturian collective, struggled to find common ground. "Their concept of territory is fundamentally different from ours," Chen explained during an emergency session of the Colonial Council. "They believe that by placing their technology on these worlds, they have established a metaphysical connection that constitutes ownership. That's convenient, General Olivia Santos remarked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. They plant a few devices and claim entire star systems without the inconvenience of actually living there. It's more complex than that, Chen countered. Their technology is partially organic, designed to integrate with and monitor the development of each world. They see themselves as guardians of cosmic evolution. And now they want us to abandon 17 colonies. President Alexei Volkov asked, his face grim. Chen nodded. They've given us 5 Earth years to vacate all systems beyond Alpha Centauri. They consider this generous. The room erupted in outrage, but it was Admiral William Drake who brought the discussion back to its most critical point. What happens if we refuse? Chen's face darkened. They didn't specify, but their technological capabilities are concerning. They can manipulate gravity, fold space, and from what we've observed, their weapons technologies are centuries beyond our own. So we surrender, Santos demanded. Abandon everything we've built. No, Volkov said firmly. We negotiate, we delay, and we prepare. If it comes to conflict, we must be ready. The years that followed were marked by humanity's most concentrated period of technological development in history. The looming threat of the Arcturian collective united Earth and the colonies as never before. Resources poured into military research, and breakthroughs in propulsion, energy weapons, and defensive systems came at an unprecedented pace. But diplomacy was failing. The Arcturians remained inflexible in their demands, and as the 5-year deadline approached, incidents began to multiply. An Arcturian survey vessel disabled a human mining operation on Ta City IV, claiming it was damaging their ancient monitoring systems. A human colony ship was forced to change course after an Arcturian warship appeared in its path, creating a gravitational distortion that made continuing impossible. On April 17, 2162, the tensions exploded into open conflict. A fleet of Arcturian vessels appeared in orbit around Helios Prime, demanding immediate evacuation. When the colonial governor refused, the Arcturians deployed what they called harmonic disruptors, weapons that generated energy fields that interfered with human technology without causing direct physical damage. They expected a bloodless victory, a demonstration of their superiority that would convince humanity to accept their terms. What they received instead was humanity's most primal response to existential threat: unrestrained aggression. The UCA Defender, a warship equipped with experimental fusion torpedoes, had been stationed in a nearby asteroid field, hidden from Arcturian sensors. When the attack on Helios Prime began, Captain Darius Wells made a decision that would change the course of human history. All weapons free, he ordered. Target their command vessel. The fusion torpedoes, designed to penetrate the quantum field barriers that protected Arcturian ships, struck with devastating effectiveness. The Arcturian flagship disintegrated in a blinding flash of energy, taking with it the highest-ranking members of their expeditionary force. The remaining Arcturian vessels, stunned by the unexpected loss of their leadership, withdrew to regroup. But the damage was done. The first battle of humanity's first interstellar war had been fought, and against all odds, humans had drawn first blood. News of the confrontation spread rapidly through human space. On Earth, the Colonial Council convened an emergency session and voted unanimously to establish the Terran Defense Force, consolidating the military resources of Earth and all colonies under a single command structure. We did not seek this conflict, President Volkov declared in a system-wide broadcast. But we will not surrender our rightful place among the stars. Humanity has faced extinction before, from disease, from our own weapons, from the harsh realities of space. Each time, we have adapted, we have overcome. This challenge will be no different. The Arcturians, for their part, were shocked by the human response. In their millennia of existence, they had never encountered a species that would risk annihilation, rather than accede to their superior wisdom. They saw humans as irrational, dangerously unpredictable, and now, unexpectedly lethal. And so the war began in earnest. The Arcturians deployed their full technological might, targeting human colonies with weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. They still hoped to preserve the worlds they considered their own, simply removing the human presence. But they had fundamentally misunderstood their adversary. Humanity, faced with a technologically superior enemy, responded with the qualities that had enabled their survival for thousands of years: adaptability, ingenuity, and a fierce determination to prevail against all odds. What they lacked in technology, they made up for in tactical innovation and sheer ferocity. At the Battle of Proxima Centauri, human forces employed a network of quantum-entangled mines, designed by Dr. Sofia Konstantinov, to neutralize an Arcturian fleet by creating a cascading failure in their propulsion systems. At Epsilon Eridani, Colonel Marcus Jackson led a daring raid on an Arcturian supply depot, capturing examples of their advanced technology that would later be reverse-engineered into humanity's first practical faster-than-light drive. The war expanded across the frontier, with human forces adopting guerrilla tactics against the more conventional Arcturian military. Every engagement was a desperate gamble, but gradually, the tide began to turn. Human scientists, working around the clock, began to decode the principles behind Arcturian technology, closing the gap between the two civilizations. 3 years into the conflict, the unified human government that had formed to coordinate the war effort was formally established as the Terran Alliance. What had begun as a loose confederation of colonies was now a centralized authority with a clear vision. Not just survival, but victory, adaptation, and ascension. 5 years into the war, humanity had transformed. The necessities of conflict had accelerated technological development beyond what would have been possible in peacetime. The quantum displacement drive, reverse-engineered from captured Arcturian technology, allowed human ships to travel faster than light without the limitations of traditional wormhole generators. New materials, developed to withstand Arcturian energy weapons, led to advances in everything from spacecraft construction to civilian infrastructure. Dr. Ilara Voss stood before the Alliance Scientific Council, her holographic presentation displaying the latest breakthrough. "We've successfully integrated the Arcturian quantum network protocols with our own AI systems," she explained. "This allows us to predict their tactical movements with 87% accuracy." Admiral Drake, now Supreme Commander of the Terran Alliance forces, nodded appreciatively. "And they can't detect this intrusion?" "No, sir. Their system is designed to recognize other Arcturian systems as part of their collective. Our mimicry is flawless." This was the pattern of the war. Each Arcturian advantage was studied, adapted, and ultimately neutralized by human ingenuity. The Arcturians, accustomed to technological superiority, found themselves increasingly frustrated by an enemy that seemed to evolve with each encounter. The Battle of Ta Siti marked the turning point. The Arcturians, recognizing the strategic importance of the system, deployed their largest fleet yet, over 100 vessels, including 3 of their dreaded Harbinger-class dreadnoughts. Admiral Layla Kadem, commanding the Terran Alliance's 3rd Fleet, faced a force that outnumbered her 3-1. "They expect us to fall back to protect our core systems," Kadem told her officers. "Instead, we're going to attack." The human fleet, equipped with the latest quantum displacement drives and phase-shifted armor, executed a series of micro-jumps that scattered their forces throughout the Arcturian formation. Before the Arcturians could reorganize, human ships were inside their defensive perimeter, targeting their command and control systems. "All ships, execute Operation Chimera," Kadem ordered. The human vessels activated their newly developed quantum scramblers, devices that disrupted the telepathic communications the Arcturians relied on for coordination. For the first time in the war, the Arcturians experienced the chaos of battle without their collective consciousness to guide them. The result was decisive. The Arcturian fleet, unable to coordinate effectively, suffered devastating losses, Two of their Harbinger dreadnoughts were captured intact, providing humanity with unprecedented access to their advanced technology. The third managed to escape, carrying news of the defeat back to the Arcturian homeworld. The victory at Ta City changed the dynamic of the war. The Arcturians, who had viewed the conflict as a minor inconvenience, a simple matter of removing an infestation from their territory, now recognized humanity as a genuine threat. They began to deploy their most devastating weapons, including the gravity lance, a device capable of manipulating a planet's gravitational field to create earthquakes, tsunamis, and other natural disasters. The human colony on Gliese 667 Seek was the first to experience this weapon. Over 3 million colonists died when the planet's tectonic plates were forcibly realigned, creating a series of supervolcanoes that rendered the surface uninhabitable. The tragedy shocked the human population, but rather than demoralizing them, it hardened their resolve. "We will not be intimidated," President Aisha Okafor declared in a system-wide address. "We will not be exterminated. For every colony they destroy, we will take 2 of their worlds. For every life lost, we will ensure humanity's permanent presence in this galaxy." The Terran Alliance, bolstered by their recent victories, began an aggressive campaign to push beyond the borders of human space. The captured Arcturian vessels, now crewed by humans, led the charge, using their familiarity with Arcturian defenses to penetrate deep into enemy territory. Commander Elena Reyes, who had witnessed the first contact on Helios Prime 7 years earlier, now led the most daring mission of the war. Operation Thunderbolt involved a direct assault on the Arcturian homeworld, not to conquer but to demonstrate humanity's reach and force the Arcturians to the negotiating table. "We will bring this war to their doorstep," Reyes told her strike team. "We will show them that no world is beyond our reach, that there is nowhere they can hide from human determination." The mission was a tactical masterpiece. Using the quantum displacement drives, Reyes' fleet jumped directly into orbit around the Arcturian homeworld, bypassing their extensive defensive network. Before the Arcturians could respond, human forces had deployed a series of quantum beacons throughout their capital city, devices that could, if activated, create localized rifts in space-time. The message was clear: continue the war, and the Arcturians would face the same existential threat they had posed to humanity. To the surprise of the human forces, the Arcturians did not respond with anger or defiance. Instead, their leadership requested immediate negotiations, not through intermediaries, but directly with the human commander who had penetrated their defenses. Reyes, now acting as humanity's representative, was escorted to the Grand Conclave, the governing body of the Arcturian collective. What she found there defied her expectations. The Arcturians were not a monolithic entity, but a diverse collection of species, each with its own perspective on the conflict. "We have observed your kind for decades," the Arcturian Prime Speaker told her. "We believed we understood you. We were wrong." The negotiations that followed were not about surrender but recognition. The Arcturians, for all their technological advancement, had never encountered a species that combined humanity's adaptability with their determination. They had come to realize that exterminating humans would require a level of brutality that would violate their own ethical principles. "You have earned your place among the stars," the Prime Speaker conceded, "not by right of discovery, but by right of survival against overwhelming odds. This is a test we did not intend to administer, but one you have passed nevertheless."